10 things I wish as a beginner. As a brand new crypto homie, what do I need to know? Now, I've been a crypto bro since 2017. I opened up a hedge fund in 2023, and right now we are on pace to be beating Bitcoin returns. This channel is where I, as a fund manager, just talk about my opinions and thoughts on this space. And today we are flying super high level to describe, I think, the 10 most important things for a beginner in crypto. If you want to learn more about my fund and who I am, just click the link in the banner. The very first thing that you need to know is blockchains are databases. That's all they are. I wish I knew that when I first got into it. You know, as someone with a software background, that fact helped me really look at this stuff differently. Bitcoin is a database. Ethereum, a database. Solana, a database. Double clicking on that, just diving a little bit deeper. The main difference between Web 3 or blockchain and Web 2, or what a traditional database would look like, is the fact that all of the different computers that make up a network are owned by individuals instead of one singular company. So a database could have multiple states across multiple nodes across multiple countries, but if they're all owned by one company, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, etc., they are still centralized and suffer from this concept of a single point of failure. Meaning, if I get one node, your whole network is compromised. There's tons and tons of examples of this. Billions of records have been lost to these single points of failures across the private sector. There's more security with blockchains. And another really cool idea is that since we are using a bunch of other people's computers, and they aren't just server boxes, they have specific functions, and people have built different types of stuff on top of the database, like smart contracts. There's cooler functionality with blockchains as well. For the first time ever, we have basically a decision as a developer to submit data to a blockchain and execute on a blockchain, which is just a different kind of database. This database would allow me to offer such cooler experiences to my users. That frame of mind made me understand that blockchains, crypto, will be obfuscated or hidden from the user experience in the fullness of time. Like, you're not going to know which wallet and all this other stuff. You'll just have a user with a handle no different than Venmo or something like that that's tied to a wallet. The wallet is just the function of the database. So eventually there's going to be interfaces on top of all this stuff, and no one's going to even know that they're on Ethereum or Solana or anything else, which also means all this stuff needs to be interoperable. So it really helped frame my perspective as a fund manager when looking at this space and as an investor personally. The second thing is understanding the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, because that comes back to the blockchain trilemma, where you really can only solve for two things. So you can pick two sides of this triangle: security, performance, and centralization. You could have a really secure and decentralized blockchain, but its performance will suffer. You could have a highly performant blockchain, but its decentralization will suffer, and so on and so forth. So you have to decide. Well, on top of that, you also have this concept of smart contract functionality. So the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think a beginner maybe understands Bitcoin. The next step is the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is genuinely just the smart contract functionality. There are teams trying to add that to Bitcoin, but for now, let's just go over it. I actually made a great video on that, by the way. You should definitely go check it out. Ethereum allowing smart contracts basically takes all of the functionality of Ethereum and then adds this idea to automate business processes. The best way I could think of it is a vending machine. A vending machine actually has a little computer in it. It has all of the inputs it needs for the desired output, meaning the user can put the money in. It can tell you, which cork needs to spin, A6, and then whatever's in there will fall out. The computer needs all of the inputs. It needs the money, it needs the location of the item, but after that, it can do it all on its own. The same is true for smart contracts. If the user's information and all of the data for the transaction is available to the database, you can automate the process of whatever that transaction entails. A quick example is Aave. Aave is a bank that is a protocol. They did 360 billion last month, and it is a protocol. It is an internet protocol. Donald Trump himself used it to build his own bank called World Liberty Financial. Aave automates the borrowing and lending. So it uses smart contracts to pair a borrower and a lender, and it creates its own little agreement inside of that smart contract. And if both accept the terms, the loan is done. Done. I have $1 million of USDC. You have $2 million of Bitcoin. I'll give you 50% LTV. So I'll give you the full million. So that's half of your 2 million plus 10% over 12 years. If that works, the other guy's like, yeah, I'll do that. Click, puts his Bitcoin in an escrow wallet. Other guy puts his capital into the Bitcoin wallet. And then whenever he doesn't make a payment, comes out of the Bitcoin. It's all automated. You can get a loan in 2 to 3 minutes on Aave over this concept of smart contracts. And that's the chief difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Third thing would be the difference between a warm, hot, and cold wallet. A cold wallet is basically where you would put your tokens that is not connected to the internet at all, and it's in like a little USB stick or a little square device, but essentially it is something that you put in a safe or a safety deposit box, and you keep paper copies of the keys to access that USB stick, and usually some kind of biometric as well. Where like a warm wallet is a wallet that is kind of, so like MetaMask would be a warm wallet. You know, if you're not opening the wallet, you're not on the network, I'm sorry, on the internet per se, but it is stored, you know, publicly on a database that, you know, those tokens are there and all that stuff. So you need to actually hit approve and send and sign transactions through that, but it's not like online all the time. And then a hot wallet would be a wallet in a centralized exchange where it's on 24/7 and it's, you know, your crypto is in the exchange's wallet. And, you know, there are pros and cons to all of them. Cold wallet, generally speaking, is for someone who I think is a little bit more experienced, that understands the weight of keys and how important this is, and they're confident that they're not going to lose it. That's a big one. A warm wallet is for someone I would say is intermediate. Someone that is doing DeFi stuff that needs liquidity on chain to trade and do things and connect to different exchanges. I would not park long-term money in a warm wallet, although I have recovered warm wallets, you know, 5 years plus, and the tokens are still there. So it is still a good option. It's just you could lose the tokens if you don't know what you're doing, you connect to something you shouldn't, or you leave the connection open, stuff like that. And then a hot wallet, I think, is for absolute beginners. You just get a Coinbase account, fund it, invest, and fall asleep on it. It's a public company. I personally have all my money in hot wallets as a fund manager. I don't want to custody my client money, right? I have that in a third party, Kraken. And personally, I like the idea of being able to connect to the internet anywhere and have access to my crypto and not have to worry about losing a cold wallet. Ever since FTX, people are hesitant to put their crypto on exchanges, but some of these exchanges are really legit. No downtime, 10, 11, 12 years now. I think their security and their, you know, 9-figure security budget a year is better than what I personally could do. If I wanted to self-custody, I personally would be worried about losing access to it or someone finding it and things like that, you know, or a tornado or a fire or something like that. So for me, personally, hot wallets where I go, but that is the differences between them. The fourth thing are going to be your keys. They're the most important thing in the world. They are random 12, 24, or sometimes 36 words that are case sensitive, and their order matters. And you cannot lose them ever, and you cannot disclose them to anyone ever. 2 paper copies, 2 different places. Someone you trust with your life knows where they're at, and that's it. That's what I recommend for that. The fifth thing would be scams are everywhere. I have definitely in my beginning days lost some crypto to me clicking something I shouldn't have. Nothing serious, because of this one tip that I always did as a software guy, paranoid. I will put the crypto I want to experiment with in a new wallet. It is my transactional wallet that I'll connect to things. So there's a test wallet, if you will, right? Always. That's what I do. So wherever you're storing your crypto in the wallet, whatever you want to play with, just move it to a different one, a new one, spin up a new one, and then keep that exposure minimal. I did that from the beginning, which helped me and saved me a lot, but I've definitely fallen to them. They're everywhere. They're getting craftier, they're getting better, especially with AI. So keep your eyes peeled. Some tips for that. Read the URL letter by letter, spend the time. Emotionally, if you do not understand, you are worried, you're feeling some type of way about a message that you don't understand where it came from or what it could possibly mean, that is a scam. Almost always that is a scam. Ignore. The last one, it's a pig butchering scam. All of these comments in my videos that say, hey, thank you so much, David Perez, or whatever, like some arbitrary name, and they're all promoting them, and they're talking about a story about how this person made them all this money, changed their life. It's all a scam. Those are all bots. Those are all attempts at building your trust. Or women on dating apps that say they make all this money day trading on crypto, and they send you a link. All of that is a scam. It's all a scam. They build trust. You wire money. The money goes to their bank account. They show you a fake website. They manually update the database, make you think you're making all this money, when in reality, that's just not the case. You're just wiring them money. And then when you want to withdraw money, they say you got to pay taxes beforehand. It's not true. It's not. That's not how it works. Those are very, very important to pay attention to. The sixth thing I wish I knew is the difference between a centralized exchange and a decentralized exchange. When I first started, I thought Coinbase and SushiSwap were like the same thing. It's not the case. Centralized exchanges are companies with structures and licenses and things like that. They are connected to the banking system. Decentralized exchanges just use wallets, so you don't really have any corporate structure. They're one-way transactions. You mess it up, it's on you. You need a warm wallet to connect to it, like a MetaMask or something like that. There's a lot of nuances there that I wish I would have known. In general, if you're a long-term investor, I would stick to the sexes. If you're, intermediate to advanced, a warm wallet and then sending it to a cold wallet, if you're confident in your abilities to not mess that up, go for it. Again, I personally, as a professional veteran in this space, I spread my investments across multiple centralized exchanges, and I feel very confident. It'd be like having multiple brokerage accounts just in case one of the businesses goes out of business, or any of the brokerage accounts go out of business, or an exchange gets compromised in some way. That's how I prefer to do it. But if you wanted to self-custody, I would say the second option would be to use a MetaMask attached, go to a decentralized exchange with the least amount of slippage, best liquidity, and then buy what you want, put it in your cold wallet, and forget about it. That is another option. Those are two very distinct and different things. The seventh thing I wish I knew: meme coins are casinos. I have lost tons of money to projects I thought were legit but were scams in the beginning. This is the toll of being a crypto guy or girl. 99% of them zero out in a year. Only 1% get past 10 million, and 1% of that gets to a billion. So your chances are better literally doing anything else with that money. In my opinion, you should treat them like a casino. That's it. 5%, 2% of your crypto portfolio, and go have fun. That's your gambling money. But that's what it is. You should not go long on Partcoin. Hopefully, it's not the first person to tell you that. In general, these things are not successful long term, or they're very rarely successful long term. Some are. That kind of points to my number 8 item, which is long-term thinking. When I first got into crypto, a lot of retail does this. You get super excited, super wrapped up in the narrative. Especially, I was coming in a bull market in 17, so everyone in their mother's talking about it. Where if I would have just taken a 10-year outlook and I wasn't doing trading in, trading out, doing all this crazy stuff, and I would have just stuck to the fundamentals and bought and held, I would be a far wealthier man. It just is a reality. Having longer term thinking. It's 2025. The president of the United States has a DeFi application. If I would have held from 2017 all the way through to today, I would have made a lot more money. And that's why my strategy is discretionarily long. That's why I started a hedge fund. I'm making up for it by making better decisions now. So I would advise that you take a longer term approach to any investment, generally. Like any investment. In my opinion, that is the best way to account for volatility, even in the stock market. The .com boom and crash, if you would have just held the tech companies, it's likely you would have still held on to Apple or Google. If you were doing the research back then, you would still have some names that were relevant, and they would have made up for everything else that didn't hit. That's the general concept, and I've found a lot more success personally and for my investors with that approach. The ninth one would be how to transact. This is something that is not intuitive. I don't really see people giving these kinds of tips online, but it goes back to what I had said previously. You're going to want a test wallet. In that test wallet, you're going to send 10% of what you're going to eventually transact. So if you have $1,000, I would send 100 to a test wallet. I would send 50 from that test wallet to the target destination. Make sure it gets there. Make sure the databases, ledgers are up to date, and that the value actually settled and that it's in that wallet before sending 90% to the test wallet and then maybe 50% and then another 50%. I don't mind paying the extra fees. I want to make sure that the transaction goes well and that it is going exactly where I want it to. Additionally, you should read the first 8 and the last 8 of the wallet sending and receiving. It's an extra step. It does take a little extra time, but it is 100,000% worth it. Just is. I would do that to make sure that even before you send your test transaction that you're actually pointing in the right direction. Too many people have lost crypto to the ethos from not doing these simple things. So I would definitely pay attention to that. And then finally, I wish I would have adopted in the beginning a more traditional approach to how I personally, and this is the final one, number 10, how I personally viewed this space. Time in the market is way better than timing the market. If I were to take the 40 best performing days of Bitcoin and got rid of it, it returns 12% a year. So if you're not in for those crazy rides up, you're missing a lot, and it is risky just to be out in general. I keep dry powder always in the fund and personally for the volatility. Like right now, we're down 12%. You can make money just by buying those little dips. But if you aren't mainly invested, you run the risk of missing crazy returns. The S&P is the same, but it's not as extreme because this market is much smaller. We're at 4 trillion and it conceivably could be 100 trillion by 2030, 2040. I have a whole video backing into that. Raoul Pal, one of the best macro analysts of our time, talks about it all the time as well. He's like, even if I'm 50% off and we hit 50 trillion, this is the largest transfer of wealth that we're ever going to see. And I'm excited to be here. Hopefully you're excited to be here. You're definitely in the right place if you made it all this way and you're looking for videos like this from people like me. You're doing the work, you're doing the education, you're looking for content that is going to make you better. And I hope I helped you with that mission on this video. I really do. If you want me to make videos like this or any other kind of video, you want me to cover a name, a token, even a stock, we did one on Galaxy Digital a little bit ago, reach out. I would love to give you my opinions on whatever I can find on my research and bring that video to you guys. Thank you so much for the support and the love. It means everything to us. Thank you. We will keep putting out this content. And until next time, take care of one another. Peace and love. I'll see you.